Okay, now it's the time that we are going to move forward with MCP, Model Context Protocol. I hope you have checked the previous video and you understood what is MCP, how it works, and different components of MCP. Now it's the time we need to see that how we actually implement that. So if you understood concepts like MCP client, which is basically your AI agent or an application of generative AI, and maybe you're going to understand the MCP server as well. So maybe you understood that what MCP server is all about. Now, if you understood that, this is the time you have to check this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Azure AI Foundry portal. I will develop some agents here. I'm going to use some large language model, and those large language models are going to associate with the agent with additional tools using MCP server. In this particular example, I'm going to use remote server. So basically, Microsoft Learn is a website which is for all kind of learning related to Azure and Microsoft Learning. Now I'm going to use a Microsoft Learn MCP server, which is remotely available on a specific URL. Why am I doing this thing and why I'm not creating my own MCP server? Well, let's understand how you can connect with the remote MCP server first. And then in the coming videos, I'm going to show you how you can set up your own MCP server as well. So we'll see that as well, but let's get started with remote MCP server first. As you can see right now, I have logged into my Azure AI Foundry portal. I have my Azure portal also open side by side, somewhere in two different tabs here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on create agent, and that basically allows me to create a new project. As per my habit, I'm going to add proj at the end of this particular project name. And while creating this project, I am going to make sure that I am going to choose a proper region. Now, this is actually going to allow you to create this thing in the certain regions only. And the regions which we can use is West US 2, West US, Norway East, Switzerland North, UAE North, and South India. Now, in my case, I am going to choose West US. So let me just scroll down and choose West US right now. Suppose if West US is not available in your case, you can go to the other regions which I have mentioned. And the list of these region names are available on the screen. Okay, so again, I'm repeating West US 2. Then you can use Norway East, Sweden North, Switzerland North, UAE North, and South India. So these are the regions you can go for. I'm going to click on create. When I create this Azure AI Foundry project, obviously the first thing which I have to do is I need to have my kind of a language model there. So I need to use one of the foundation model. I suggest you can use GPT-4o or GPT-4 for this particular lab activity. Uh, some models which are older than GPT-4 and all, I do not advise you to use it, because this MCP server which we are going to use is going to work with some associated libraries, and we need a latest language models with this. So two outdated language models will not work here. In my case, I'm going to try my best to use GPT-4o first, and if that is not available, I can go to GPT-4 mini, or I can go to some other variations as well. Let's wait for some time. This project creation is going to take few minutes. As you can see, my project creation is done. It's showing me select the model which you want to see. I'm going to search for GPT-4o. It's available here itself. So I'm going to choose GPT-4o. I'll click on confirm, and yep, it is available in West US. 50,000 tokens per minute is perfectly fine for me. I'll just click on deploy, and it will be done within few seconds. Now, once your model is ready, the next thing is you have to develop an application, basically your MCP client application, which is going to allow you to connect with the servers and all. So by default, my Azure AI Foundry project is going to have a default agent which is configured here. And you can see right now, if I have one agent here, is showing me agent ID. The agent name is agent 444 with some kind of deployment which is connected with that is GPT-4o. This is a default dummy agent which is there. I'm not really interested in this. But yeah, this is an agent which is visible here if I click on the agents section. And it's taking time, but hopefully it will be loaded there. Yeah, my agent 444 is there. Now this is the default agent, so I have not done anything inside this, so don't worry about this. Now it's the time we have to set up our project. So I am going to open my Visual Studio Code. I hope you also have a Visual Studio Code installed in your lab environment. and I'm going to click on File. Sorry, I do not want to open the project which is already created there. So you can see I have already created the project somewhere. But instead of that, I am going to clone the repository from scratch, because this is one of the official repository available on GitHub from Microsoft side. So I'm just going to copy that. I am going to do Control Shift P. I'm going to click on Git Clone, and I'm going to paste the repository URL. Now, as you can see, this is github.com/Microsoft Learning. And then after this, we have a term which is mslearn-AI agents. Now, this is the URL which you have to put for your repository. The moment you put this, you hit enter. It's going to ask you the repository destination where you want to put this thing. I'm going into somewhere my C drive where I have a ST Labs kind of a folder, which is for Skill Tech Labs. And I'm going to select the repository destination. When I do this, within few seconds, the repository is going to be cloned successfully. And then I'm going to click on open. Remember, just for your kind of information, I'm sharing this information here. Let me open the new Notepad file. And this is the URL of the repository. Just make sure if you want to clone the repository and you want to do the lab with me, you can also clone this repository from the same URL. Okay, this is the URL. I have a couple of lab files inside this, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this one, which is 03C, which is use agent tools with MCP. This is one of the official repository sample of Microsoft, so you can also use it the same way. It's developed in Python, and if I check here, I have two files inside this. We have, let me zoom it a little bit more. Yeah, I think this is fine. We have two files. We have environment file, obviously, it's a Python project. Client.py is a Python class, and then requirements.txt, which is basically a file which is showing me my requirements associated with this, which is saying that it's going to have UV icon, UV Azure identity, and Python.NET environment. These are the files which are basically the requirement for this project. Now I have cloned the repository, and the next obvious thing which I have to do is I have to install the dependencies. So I'm going to right click on the Python folder. I'll open this in the integrated terminal. I want to execute certain commands. Like the first command which I want to execute is this. I'm going to say Python m virtual environment lab environment. Now when you do this thing, it's going to create a lab environment configuration here. And you can see it has some folders like include, lib, scripts, and all those things. Once this command is executed successfully, it's basically going to set up my lab environment for Python inside this. So yeah, it is done. Once this is done, I just want to do one thing. If you check inside the lab environment folder, we have a folder called scripts. And inside this, we have one script which is activate. This activate is basically a file which is allowing me to activate this thing. So I'm going to copy one more line of command. I'll paste it here, and I'm going to say from lab environment scripts folder, which is here, execute the activate.ps1. This is going to execute that ps1 file, which is basically the PowerShell script, which is going to be activated for this. And now if this is done, we are just going to do one final command, which is pip install from the requirement.txt, whatever requirements are given inside that for this particular project, which is Azure AI Projects MCP. It's asking me you have not installed some Python packages, or I don't want to install that. That's okay. This pip install is basically going to take care of all the dependencies which are required for this particular project. So it's going well, and it's going to take some time. So this is taking time, but very soon it's going to be done. And once it is done, we'll move forward to the next step. Or I think while this is happening, we can actually do one last step, which is we can go to this env file, which is an environment file. And this is looking for two things. It's looking for project endpoint and my model deployment name. As we all know, my model deployment is GPT-4o. This is a model which we have deployed. But my project endpoint is something which is missing here. So I have to provide it. From where I can get this? Well, I can get this by my Azure AI Foundry portal. I can go to the overview tab of my project. And here you can see my Azure AI Foundry project endpoint is visible. I'll copy this. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code, and I'll paste it here. This is my project endpoint, which is configured. This white dot is telling me that it's not saved. I'm going to save it, and environment file is configured successfully. With this, you can see my Python packages are also installed. It's asking me that the updated version of Python is available if I want to upgrade it. Well, I do not want to upgrade it right now. It's fine without that. So this is cool. I'm just going to do clear so that my terminal will be clear to execute some more commands afterwards. But yes, this is cool. Now it's the time we have to go to client.py and we have to see what kind of logical code we are going to implement here. Now, as I said, this is the official lab activity of one of the Microsoft Learning Lab. So as you can see here, it has some namespaces already added on the top. Some basic configurational code is also added for the sample. I'm going to add my sections here and I'm going to explain them. So the next thing which I want to do is I want to copy and paste few Python lines. And in this, I'm first trying to add some references. I'm trying to add Azure Identity, Azure AIAgents, and Azure AIAgents.model. While taking models, focus on this, I am taking MCP tool and toolset. Basically, this is that tool which is allowing you to integrate MCP with your AI agents. Microsoft has incorporated this whole MCP concept with this particular one single class, actually. And of course, this class is associated with multiple interfaces and inherited with multiple things with that. You can right click on this, you can go to definition, and you can check further details with that. But as of now, I'm happy with my references. I have taken my project endpoint and the model deployment name from the configuration, so that is also looks cool. Now I have to connect to the agents client. This code is very similar to what we have seen in the other samples as well. Just if you observe, I'm using default Azure credential, which is basically a class helping me to authenticate myself before I go and connect with my Azure AI agent. I'm going to use AZ login at the end of this particular sample, and then I'm going to authenticate myself with this, which basically allows me to connect with my agent's client. And that's going to allow me to manage my agent like creation, deletion, thread management. Everything is going to be done by this agent's client's variable which I have created. Next, we are providing MCP server configuration. Now, this is a URL which you have to keep in mind. This is learn.microsoft.com/API/MCP. If you hit this URL, this is that where MCP server of Microsoft Learn is available. And the label for that, I'm giving MS Learn. If you have any remote server where MCP servers are configured, you can actually replace this with any live MCP remote server, and then you can write your logic according to that. I'm using Microsoft Learn MCP server, so that's why I'm putting this URL. Any name label is fine. And now this is important code, which is initializing the agent MCP tool. In order to initialize the agent MCP tool, first I am just going to add on this section. Have a look at this. Using that MCP tool class, I'm initializing it. I'm passing two things in that, the server label and the server URL, the same two variables which we have defined above this. Once you have MCP tool, you have to invoke one function, which is mcptool.setApprovalMode, in which we are specifying never. So basically, this is one particular method. If I move my mouse on this, this is going to update the headers for the MCP tool. And I really don't want to update this. So that's why I'm saying never update that. And I'm just saying this. Then you are using a toolset class, which basically allows you to add multiple tools in that. I'm going to add one tool, which is MCP tool. So I created this tool and I added this inside the toolset, which is fine. Now, obviously, toolset can allow you to add multiple tools inside this. So maybe if you have multiple MCP servers, you can configure them as a separate tools, and then you can add on them. Or maybe some other tools also you can add on with that. After this, we have agents client variable available here, which we have declared on the top. And now it's the time we have to create our new agent. Just for your kind of information, when I'm creating a new agent here, I am going to declare an agent with some kind of a meaningful instructions with that. This is my agent client, and then I'm trying to create an agent with that. I'm passing my model deployment, which is GPT-4o. The name of the agent is my MCP agent, basically my client, you can say. Then instructions, I'm saying that you have access to MCP server called microsoft.docs.mcp. This tool allows you to search through Microsoft latest official documentation. Yes. Use the available MCP tool to answer the questions and perform tasks. Logically, This will be that one particular agent which will be capable enough to answer the question from Microsoft Learn documentation. You ask for different products and services which are provided through MCP and Microsoft Learn through this, and then it's going to give you proper answers with that. We'll see that. Then we also have a logging info, which is basically going to print that which agent ID, which agent we are using, the ID will be printed, and which MCP server we are using. Normally, these properties will be useful when you're dealing with multiple MCP servers actually, and multiple agents as well. But I have only one agent with one MCP server, so that is fine. Then I'm going to create a thread for communication. So let me just put that code snippet here. How to create a thread is a very simple process. You have seen this in the other labs as well. So just creating a thread variable with agentsclient.thread.create, as simple like this. And it's going to print the uniquely created thread ID so that we can keep track of this, that which thread is this. Then I have to create a message on the thread, which is basically going to start my initial conversation. So I'm going to say a prompt, how can I help you? And then it's going to have a message associated with that from the user side. And then it's going to print create a message ID with this unique message ID. Basically, this is going to be your initial prompt. How can I help you? And then whatever user prompt is going to be associated with this is going to be taken with that. Now, the approval mode, which we set to never, is what we are going to set it now. So basically, initially we set it never with that approval mode. Here also, in this approval mode, I'm going to set MCP tool.set approval mode to never. Now, as I said, this is something which is going to update the headers for the MCP tool. I still do not want to update this thing, and I'm specifying that this is going to be never. So this is going to be requiring approval settings to be updated. If you want to update, then fine. Otherwise, it's going to update by default, which I'm not now specifying never. I do not want to update any approval mode setting for this. Create and process agent run in the thread ID with MCP tool. That is what we're going to do now, which is basically a last piece of code snippet, which I'm going to provide here. What this is doing is going to associate with the run, and it's going to create a new run for our conversation for this agent, for this thread, and for this toolset. It's going to show me a unique run ID, which obviously I can see in my Azure AI Foundry portal as well. And then the next thing which we have is we are just having a simple logic for printing this information. So whether the run completed with what kind of a status is what which is going to be printed, if it is failed or successfully executed. And then for each conversation, we are going to print the status, the tool calls which are happening in that, and we are also going to display the MCP tool call which is happening. Now, these all things you can see in the thread logs in the Azure AI Foundry portal, or here in the console also. I'm just trying to print it. It's going to fetch and log all the messages which are coming with that. And then at the end of this, we just have a simple method which is delete agent, which is basically going to delete your agent. Now, you do not want to delete this, then you can comment this, which I want to comment right now because I want to see all these things in my Foundry portal. So I'm just going to comment the delete agent kind of a part. I do not want to delete my agent, and I'm going to save this. Okay, I'll delete it manually if I want. So now this is fine. This code is actually properly working fine. Basically, at least edited right now. Let's see if it is working or not. Let me copy AZ login, which is going to ask me to authenticate myself using the default Azure credential provider. I'm going to choose my account. Okay, I have selected my subscription. I have done AZ login, and I'm just going to clear this so that my subscription details will not be exposed. But yeah, I have already done AZ login successfully. Now, if AZ login is successfully done, I need to check whether my sample application is running or not. Let me go through Python client.py. It's going to run this Python application. You can see it's running. It's showing me we are connected to this MCP server. This is my thread which is created. And now it's saying, how can I help you? Let's say I'm providing this, that give me the Azure CLI commands to create an Azure container app with the manage identity. Now, this is one of the tasks which I'm giving. Is going to search through my Microsoft Learn documentation, and based on that, it's going to give me a response that how can I create a container app with the Azure CLI command. And you can see this. It's showing me to create an Azure container app with the user assigned Azure identity. You go to bash, az container app create, it's giving me command, all the parameters. It's also showing me more details, kind of a link where I can click and basically go to learn.microsoft.com, the specific article where it's going to show me more details about that. And then for the additional configuration, container identity, management, they're showing me this and they're saying, let me know if you need further assistance. I'm saying, it's going to remember the context. Okay, yes. Can you please also help me with creating a custom RBAC, role-based access control, RBAC role? Putting a question mark at the end of this, I'm asking, can you please help me with that as well? Let's see if it's going to search for that. And the moment I say this, is showing the term yes is not recognized. Now, actually, in this case, it's not a multi-turn conversation kind of thing, and that's the reason it's showing me a problem. But if I put the same question, because this is already coming out of this, so if I put the same question now, Control C, and I'm going to run this application once again. So basically it got terminated at the end of this. Now it's saying, how can I help you? I'm providing this, that can you please help me with the creating custom RBAC role? It's going to search for that. It's creating a message ID association with this. And now it's going to fetch the details from the document. Yeah. Now run completed, and let me see the result. It's showing me the details here, which is fine. It's showing me that REST API call started with identifying the resource for this one with restricted access. This all things are saying steps to create a custom RBAC role. Step number 1, step number 2. Step number 1 is determine permissions needed. Choose a creation method. How do you want to do this? Define a custom role. For example, JSON with this kind of permissions, and then create a role using a control method, and then taste the custom role. And then it's also giving me an example of Azure PowerShell input format with that. This is amazing. It's giving me all these details, some key properties for the custom role, which you have to keep in mind. It's giving me all those fine details, and then the completion is added. Now, at the same time, if I want to see this, I'm going back to my Azure AI Foundry portal. I have not deleted my agents. You remember that? So I have two agents which got created for my two different executions. You can see 5:31, 5:33 p.m. When I go to my first agent, and if I say that I want to go to threads, and I want to see that thread which got created with this, I'll go to try in playground, and now see this here. This is showing you the full execution of this with the prompt which you have given. The instruction which I have given here is here. In the agent descriptions, we do not have anything. In the tools here, we do not have anything, but it's all done through the code. So when I see the thread logs of this particular role, you can see that this agent is doing a tool call. And this tool call is which tool? It's an MCP tool. So this is an MCP tool call which is happening. It's going through that Microsoft Learn remote MCP server. It's fetching the data from this. It's showing me the lengthy response which we got from that, and then is creating a message based on that lengthy response. So this output is basically coming from that MCP remote server, and then it's fetching that and it's showing you all those details here. Same for the other requests as well. One agent is making two requests, so we are getting two different threads, and then in each thread is basically making a tool call. So if I go back again, agents, I go to my threads. Let me check the latest thread, which is actually focusing on RBAC. I'll click on try in playground. I want to see the thread log, and you can see this time for this thread log, it has made two calls. For the first call, this is basically focusing on create a custom RBAC role in Azure. That's an argument. And then based on that, it has done the tool call. It got the responses with that. Then another MCP tool call in which they are using one particular URL as an argument, which is for custom role. And from that, they fetch the document and they created this lengthy response, which is actually coming from that. And finally, after the two MCP calls, it has created a message creation. So there are chances sometime it's going to make a one MCP call and the process will be done. Sometime it's going to do 2 or 3 MCP calls, and then your final completion is going to be ready. Now, you can try a few more inputs with this, and you can observe this in the thread logs. that how many things are actually getting executed with that. But this is really cool. It's showing you total number of tokens which are getting used by this, which basically helps you to control the cost of this. I hope you understood this MCP remote server connection with that. Your agent is connecting with Microsoft Learn specific remote server. In the coming videos, we are going to focus on MCP server, remote servers, local servers, and customizing your own remote servers and all those things. With that, this is Maruti signing out. I hope you're liking our videos, and if you really like our videos, I request you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with your friends. Maybe your colleagues and friends are going to also like our videos, so please do that thing. Also, if you have stayed with me till this end of this particular video, then I want to tell you one thing, that we are running a Black Friday discount on our website, which is skilltech.club. And if you go for a premium subscription, we are giving you 50% discounts on the premium subscription. So this is once in a year kind of an event. And I'm sure those who are really interested in learning are going to go and grab this thing. Happy Black Friday to you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.